Good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Yes. Supervisors Frost. Here. Kennedy. Natoli.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Cerna.
Here.
This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and is webcast at sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, April 24th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting is also broadcast live on KUBU Radio on 96.5 FM. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any local library branch. Please take a moment to silence your electronic devices. Also, I want to make an announcement that Supervisor Patrick Kennedy is participating via teleconference.
Great, and I'll just note that we do have a quorum.
And we have a quorum.
Okay, please rise and join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as has become expected, I do have an announcement. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, this meeting is live streamed and closed to the public. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. Members of the public are encouraged to submit public comments electronically, which will be accepted until the adjournment of the meeting. The clerk's office will distribute electronic comments to board members, and comments will be filed in the record. Send comments to the clerk at boardclerk@saccounty.net. That's SACCOUNTY.net. Include the meeting date, agenda item number, or write off agenda matter if the comment is related to an item that is not on the posted agenda. It is optional to include your first and last name. Please visit the Board of Supervisors Public Meetings webpage for detailed information related to agendas and general information at bospublicmeetings.saccounty.net. And then before we get to our agenda, again, I just want to use a few moments to thank everyone here at the county for all the great work that you continue to do with regard to our response to the COVID-19 virus. I want to thank our first responders and our doctors and nurses in our community that continue to be the frontline defense relative to this public health challenge. We all greatly appreciate the sacrifices everyone is making, whether you're considered essential or not. This is really taking the entire community to confront this unprecedented moment in our history. And again, you have the thanks of the Board of Supervisors. So with that, our first item, please.
For your consent matters, items 1 through 47. For item 31, you're introducing an ordinance amending Chapter 16.80, 1681, 1683, 84, 85, 87, 16150, 16155, and 16160 relating to the exemption of development impact fees for certain accessory dwelling units. You're waiving reading and continuing to May 19th. And this concludes my notes.
Okay. Any member of the board? Yes, Supervisor Peters.
Thank you. I'd like the record to reflect I'm recusing from item number 4, potential conflict of interest.
Okay, others? Supervisor Tully.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could just, I need to make comments on items 36 and 41, if I could, please.
Okay.
And then before we get to that, I just want to note that I'm going to have some comments, and I believe staff is going to have some comments on item 4.
Okay.
And I know that we have a number of public comments on item 15 that I plan to note and read into the record.
So I'm going to read item 36 and 41 in for Mr. Natoli. So item 36, approve the resolution adopting a list of projects for fiscal.
We can't hear you. I couldn't hear Don. I don't know. Somebody needs to turn the.
I think the volume for the entire chamber is needs to come up.
Yeah, it's very muffled. Like you have a mask on.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Now.
All right. Item 36, approve the resolution adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 2020-21 proposed to be funded by the Local Streets and Roads Program created by Senate Bill 1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act.
Okay, just very quickly, I know we got a revised attachment or Exhibit A to this, and I had a chance to talk to Director of Transportation, Mr. Ron Macari, yesterday afternoon. I just wanted to, for the record, be clear that as relates to the pavement rehabilitation and overlay projects contemplated for a good deal of the force account work, that I see the revised list included some of this conversation we've been having ongoing with the department, but it's my understanding that we can, again, in concert with the department, that the District 5 can refine that list further. So I just want to be clear. On the record, I see Mr. Hartwig nodding his head as well. So that was my comment on that. And then
Item 41 is the contract Michigan Bar Road over the Cosumnes River Bridge replacement project. The environmental document is a mitigated negative declaration.
Yeah, just a couple of items I already had noted for the record. I believe this is in District 4, so it's in Supervisor Frost's district. It was in District 5 for many, many decades. But I just wanted to note that the conversation of this started back when it was still in District 5, and the contemplation of a single-lane bridge was certainly in keeping with, I think, the very rural character of that location. I just wanted to note that with this feasibility study, though, as well, that it was contemplating potentially some public access, and I think that the limitations that were pointed out, both environmental, but certainly from the standpoint of practicalities of the Ranchian family, the Ruman family, which has ranched in that area for well over 100 years, and their home sits right on the southern edge of that bridge. I mean, it's their front yard, literally, and I think on the north side, obviously, there's still access for some of the ranching that goes on adjacent to Deer Creek Hills and for other privately held lands in the area. So I just wanted to note that it was a little, I think, it was not in the comments that was in the staff report. It just talked about lack of safe pedestrian access and lack of adequate parking and sensitive environmental resources. I just wanted to note that the agricultural practices, the ranching practices out there, and the proximity of the family home, at least on the southern end of the bridge, I think are all very limiting factors. They're covered in the feasibility analysis, but just weren't summarized in the report. So I just want to point that out. And obviously, I know Supervisor Frost and her staff are very familiar with this particular project. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, Supervisor Frost, anything? Okay. Item 4, I believe.
Okay. Item 4, delegate temporary authority to the Director of Airports to approve short-term retroactive amendments to agreements with airport tenants as a result of the novel coronavirus pandemic.
Okay, so I asked our county CEO and our airports director to please look at an email that I became aware of yesterday from Unite Here Local 49, who had some concerns and suggestions related to ongoing federal resources and the fact that some of those federal resources have already been depleted. And I know that both Mr. Gill and Ms. Nichols have been working this morning to conclude what appropriate language might be used to amend the resolution on this matter. So I don't know, Mr. Gill, if you want to speak to it.
I'm going to have Ms. Nichol address it. She has the language.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good morning. Actually, I'm going to pass the buck even further to County Council, but the language that was proposed, just so everyone's clear, Mr. Rack from Unite Here represents workers of concessionaires. The language he provided was specific to concessionaires. We need to broaden that because we have other tenants like airlines that we need to address. The other factor is that we would like to make it that entities that are not eligible for any of the CARES Act or subsequent legislation, grants or loans, would be eligible. And I'll give you an example, Aeromexico. So if we defer payments by airlines, we'd like to include such entities in the mix. And Aeromexico is the only airline, by the way, that has not applied for a grant that has staff retention requirements. and because they're not eligible.
Okay, so,
So, Lisa, I don't know
will-
if you have that language.
Yeah, the language I believe is, I'm trying to pull up the actual resolution, but the language is just to add to the beginning of the paragraph.
It's in the
Is it
fifth whereas.
that if a tenant is eligible and able to procure a loan pursuant to the Paycheck Protection Programs and that, et cetera, the only thing that's different is if the tenant is eligible and able. Is that correct, Cindy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So where would that be inserted? Could you walk us through that, please? It might be
One,
helpful
two,
to.
three.
Why don't we do this?
Yeah.
That we will write it in, and at the end of the agenda, we'll show you where we're putting it, and then take a vote.
And maybe you can put it up so
Yeah.
people can
Yeah,
see it.
that would be
Good
helpful.
idea.
That way, we all know where we're putting it, and there's
Right,
no
'cause I'm not-
confusion.
yeah.
We'll do it that way.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
we're moving pretty quick this morning. We're trying to get the concept down, but we got that done.
Okay.
I appreciate the work this morning to address that matter. I think it's an important one. I also just want to publicly thank Unite Here Local 49, Chris Rack and his staff for working with our airport's leadership in recent days on issues that I know are important to them in terms of retention and benefits and trying to cope as best we all can with the unique circumstance, the fact that the airport is down in business by, I believe, 95%.
Yes.
So again, I just want to issue my thanks to all parties involved.
Thank you.
So what I think we want to do is we want to treat item 4 later, item 15 separately, and then consider the balance of the consent calendar with a stipulation by Supervisor Peters on her recusal on item 4. So is there a motion? It's been
Second.
moved by Supervisor Frost, seconded by Supervisor Antoli. Please vote.
I think we should take a roll call vote since
Oh, right.
Supervisor Kennedy. Okay. Supervisor Frost? Kennedy?
Aye.
Natoli?
Aye.
Peters?
Aye.
Cerna?
Aye.
And the motion carries.
Great, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to take up item 15, please.
Item 15. Item 15 is the contract for the main jail annex criteria. Architect Services approved the agreement with Knack and Lewis Architects Incorporated in the amount of $7,027,135.
Great, thank you. Does staff have any opening comments?
I believe so. I think we want to just set the stage on why we're bringing this item, given the lawsuits we've had. So, hey, there's going to be, Jeff. Jeff Gasway is going to make the comments.
Great, thank you.
And Britt's here, too, to answer questions.
Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. Jeff Gaswood with General Services. This contract is to allow the construction, design and construction of the main jail annex, which will provide for a new intake booking system to address the health or to address medical privacy, American with Disabilities Act requirements, additional medical facilities, additional mental health space, and additional programming space within the new facility. It will also look at the space that's vacated within the current facility after the construction of the new facility to backfill those spaces with additional program space, holding cells, and other things. There's no additional beds, incarceration beds, in this proposal or within the annex. It's just to meet the May's consent decree settlement. So if you have any questions,
So I have a question. Thank you for being here. Is it appropriate then to think of the action that we're taking today, which is consideration of a contract for this work? Is it appropriate to think about this in terms of actually taking the first steps to have a jail that actually can take better care of its incarcerated people.
That is correct. And I think one of the other things, I've read all the comments that were sent in to the board members related to this item. I think the other thing that we also are going to be looking at in conjunction with the county executive's office, the design team, the sheriff's department, correctional health. There's been a reduction in population in the jail system due to the COVID-19. So what we're going to meet with everybody, look at the past jail population, the current jail population, and make sure that review it and make sure the programming and we're sizing this correctly and not, overbuilding. So I think that's important to note as well.
Okay, great, thanks. Supervisor Tully?
Yeah, Jeff, thanks for the presentation. One of the questions that occurs to me, since we had the item before us last fall, it related to a grant of match, required some local match for consideration of RCCC, and this board at that time took an action not to pursue that, as record reflects. I guess I'm curious as to with what's being anticipated here, certainly from a booking standpoint, but also from a standpoint of, to Mr. Cerna's, I think, point as well, of care for those that are in custody. But has the board's decision that was made last fall been reflected then in thinking about, again, looking at jail population, looking at facility usage, sentence versus non-sentence population? Will that be taken into account? Because as I read this summary, it was kind of, it related to, obviously, to the consent decree and to need for facilities and facility upgrades and so forth. That's part of this whole feasibility analysis and architectural work that's embodied in the recommendation. But I guess I'm curious as to how is the decision that was made by the board not to pursue, and there were different types of facilities down at RCCC, but there also were complementary, I guess, facilities in some respects. How is that being reflected in what we're taking a look at here? Was there some changes, some accommodations to your point about what's happened with the depopulation as it relates to the pandemic and some of the court orders? But I'm curious about how the decisions were reflected in what's before us.
So that's another piece that we also need to evaluate within this scope as well, is what are the impacts of not doing the SB 1022 project at RCCC, right, and what additions and additional construction may be needed either downtown or at RCCC because we did not move forward with that SB 1022 project.
So is the recommended firm here being tasked with that as a part of this?
Yes, that's part of the discussion with the county executive's office, the design team, and the county team. That'll be included in that as well.
Okay, and I guess the other question that I had a chance to talk with Mr. Gill a bit yesterday about this, and obviously we received some comments. But so at what stage would we anticipate that the board? At what stages? I guess I'm going to ask it that way. What stages will the board be engaged and re-engaged in the conversation? If we, there's a timeline here, and there's some tasks that are obviously going to be a part of this very sizable amount of money to do this work. What are the junctures at which you would anticipate, and again, obviously working with the county exec's office, that we would be back before this board? So, before we chew up $7 million and then we see some final report, where is it that we would see this again?
I think I would need to sit down with the county executive's office and work through that process at the different points at which we would come back to the board. This is not going to be a traditional design, bid, build project. This is a design, build project. So it's going to be moving a little faster and potentially starting phases sooner of, different phases of construction in order to meet the timeline for the consent decree. So I think let me get back to you on that. I'll work with NAV and we'll get back to you on that with the schedule.
Yeah, I think if I could just add to it, as this thing is moving, there are going to be decision points we got to make. So when we start getting to those decision points, we will be putting it on the agenda to have the conversation about how this is going. One, we need to have your input. Second is that, as the board is aware, the PLO and disability folks that did sue us, they are watching the steps we're taking, so it'll be a public outing, so everybody knows what we're doing. So we will work with General Services in tandem and bring that back as this starts progressing.
And I appreciate the response from both of you. So I guess I would just kind of summarize my comments on that, is that I do think it's important to maybe have, in light of what you anticipate, maybe either quicker movement or not, based upon the process that are being utilized here. I think having some sort of a calendar for understanding what junctures we get, whatever the decision points are, to your point now, but also I said what junctures, if there's some work in progress that would be helpful, again, for, not just this board, but obviously, the broader public to have an understanding about. And I think rather than just have a package to your responses to me, you presented this at some future date and say, here it is. That doesn't work in this case.
No, it won't, because as you know, there's a lot of folks watching us on this, courts, folks that sued us. We have to be together on this, what we're bringing forward, not just say, here it is, let's go forward. So we're going to work with those dates.
Okay. And just one final thing then. So as a part of the architectural work, obviously you work with the Sheriff's Department, but this has a significant focus in the medical, mental health, certainly some of the booking arena as it relates to those. I guess I would ask that, and whether it's Bruce or Dr. Bielenson or others involved, not just from a standpoint of hearing what the architect's doing, but a significant engagement, because what happens in that jail sort of relates to folks who ultimately are released into the community. And I just think that that working group of folks, not to task folks,
Correctional health is part of that working group within
need to
the
be a part
county.
of that team.
They have a seat at the table and they'll have input.
And I was looking at Britt with his mask, but Britt has taken the lead, as we had done when we were in the lawsuit, convening all our partners, criminal justice, health, whoever we need to be in there to make sure what we're designing is what meets our needs, so that we make this as functional, as Supervisor Cerna said, more functional facility for us rather than what we have on our hands right now.
Okay, and I presume the team includes the public defender, the district attorney,
Yes.
Somebody from the judges, from the
All
courts.
the criminal justice partners are in there.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
And just to put a finer point on it, for those that are watching, the plaintiffs that inspired this entire action, I think it's fair to say those plaintiffs would self-characterize as being very interested in improving the conditions for inmates in not just our jail system, but in other jail systems across the state of California where they've pursued similar action. So I know that there's a lot of consternation and concerns been expressed by folks from the Decarcerate group. But I actually think they have quite a bit in common with the plaintiffs who, again, have challenged us to improve our jail facility so that we can take better care in terms of better care of our inmates in terms of their medical condition, their psychiatric conditions, and certainly the time out of cell, all the things that you would want for to maximize a healthy population that's incarcerated in our jails. So just want to make that point.
I would agree.
If there's no further questions of staff, I have taken a somewhat unusual step of exercising my discretion as chair to agree to read into the record public comments that were submitted electronically to the clerk of the board. And what I've agreed to is to read those comments into the record with the note that I'm doing so for those commenters that have given me express permission, direction to read their comments into the record. As of this moment, I believe I have about somewhere in the neighborhood of 67 total written comments. I have about a dozen of those commenters that have given me that express direction to read their comments into the record. I've asked the clerk of the board to basically treat me as if I were standing at the podium as a member of the public, with their 3 minutes to address the board. So what I'm going to do is to proceed to read those comments. The clerk is going to keep track of the time, and I will get as much of the comments in each 3-minute increment as I can. Yes.
Are you reading it? Can we do that? Can we read a portion of the comments without reading all of them?
Did you say you were, I thought, yeah, I mean, yes,
Or are
it's
you
at your
reading
discretion.
all of them?
No, I'm reading the portion of the comments where they've given me express direction.
Right, so if someone asked, please read this into the record, then he's reading that into the record up to 3 minutes, I believe. That's correct?
That's correct.
Yes. And that's very common among other jurisdictions right now.
And in fact, as recently as our last board meeting, I believe our clerk of the board has done the same thing for commenters for off-agenda items who said, please read my comment
Okay.
into the record.
Right.
So that's
Thank you.
why I'm trying to treat this consistently.
Thank you.
Okay. So the first commenter for the record is Robin Ayers. And I see the clock has been set. Okay. Robin Ayers says, I am entirely opposed to this action. Not only should we not come into this agreement now amidst COVID-19 and the recent release of over 1,000 folks from our county jails, but we should not ever enter into this agreement. $7 million should be poured into our community and to provide service to those recently released as well as the community as a whole. We need care, not cages. Healthcare, mental health care, housing, education, all far more vital and worthy of these funds than building an unnecessary building. The problems within our county jail system have little to do with the building and a great deal to do with how Sheriff Jones and his staff treat and care for those inside and the building they have. They receive the largest sum of the county budget and need to find ways to better treat people in the building they have instead of continually having money thrown their way. Compliance with the Mays lawsuit does not require building onto or providing any new construction, but providing better care and treatment as well as decreasing the jail population. I implore you not to spend this money on the architectural design of a new jail or an annex, as it is being termed. Fund the community. That will be the biggest act of public safety this board can provide to our county. Next commenter is Rachel Harrington. Rachel says, regarding item 15, contract number 81554, main jail annex criteria architect services. Instead of investing in a new jail, the board should be focused on reentry services, mental health, drug treatment programs, and housing to prevent folks from ending up back in the system. Please vote no on this jail contract. Constituent of Supervisor Frost. This commenter is Laura Blosser, and please forgive me if I mispronounce her name. Here's the comment. I don't want a jail expansion in Sacramento. With the jail population reduced by 30%, now is not the time. The need for social services and mental health services is much greater than the need for incarceration. Please do not fund this. Next commenter is Sarah Rywich. And her comment is, I urge you to vote now on item number 15. No new Sacramento jail is needed. What's needed instead during this pandemic is for the general fund money to go to social services and community-based programs, not cages. The community will be better served in that way, and it's more important during this pandemic to invest in helping people rather than making a private architectural firm tons of money. I know personally about the abuses that are still occurring in the Sac County Jail due to having a dear friend in Sac County Jail currently. The conditions there are still awful despite the jail having had a lawsuit brought against them that they lost. Now is the time for them to improve conditions for those who are currently suffering in there, not make an additional place to repeat those bad conditions and make more people suffer due to them. Hold the jail accountable. Don't reward them with another badly managed jail where incarcerated people are treated inhumanely. I'm counting on your vote against this. It will be a vote for the people. Please, we the people need your leadership right now. Thank you, Sarah Raywich. Next commenter is Courtney Poole. I'm a volunteer to support let's see, I am a volunteer to support members of our community who have recently been released from jail, and I also work in the community services field. I volunteered for jail support last Saturday. Not only are those being released from jail in dire need of community services and supports, but also our community members who do not have housing need services. Please reconsider spending this money from the general fund on efforts to move the new jail forward and consider spending it on community-based programs that need funding to support families and individuals during this global pandemic and beyond. Next commenter is Mackenzie Wilson. My name is Mackenzie Wilson. I am a resident and neighbor in Sacramento County. I'm having an issue with the fact that you are holding meetings and making decisions. I understand that the world doesn't stop, but it kind of has, and every day y'all are in there making decisions about our lives without us, and it ain't gonna fly no more. You should be a little ashamed of yourselves for not even figuring out how to let people Zoom, call, or come in for public comment. I'm in awe that there are any meetings unless they are town halls where we can voice our concerns and you take our words and turn it into action. You were already making all those decisions in there when we could come in, but like I said, I can't live in that building with y'all. I can't go home with y'all. I can meet with y'all though. I can Zoom with y'all too. God, why is making this place accessible to people a conversation I'm still having with y'all? I know we can do better and we can do more, and I'm ready to start holding you accountable to doing that because this is becoming a little too fascist for my comfort. Let's see. Next commenter is Sage Miller. Dear Supervisor Cerna, I wish to have the following statement played or read during public comment on 421 in regards to the Sacramento jail expansion. The statement reads, "Hi, my name is Sage Miller. I am a resident here in the city of Sacramento. I strongly oppose the expansion tower proposal for the Sacramento County Jail downtown. While I am in strong support of improving conditions within the existing facility, I reject the rhetoric of adding beds to the jail when much of our tax dollars should be spent on our mental health infrastructure outside of the criminal justice system. This includes increasing funding and bed capacity within our hospitals and our community mental health systems. Thank you all for the opportunity to have my comments heard." Okay. This is another comment that appears by Mackenzie Wilson. My name is Mackenzie Wilson, and I am a community member in Sacramento County. It is a shame that the first time you agree to hear our comments out loud comes after you snuck item 15 on the agenda and we went to social media. I've been emailing Supervisor Cerna for over a week about the Sacramento Unified School District's horrifying and disenfranchising education plan. It's been weeks since you had to backhandedly put in some sort of protections for renters, but completely disregarded many of the other suggestions made around meeting the basic needs of your community. I am appalled that item 15 made its way here today. I'm appalled that you all are acting like business as usual in the middle of a crisis that is killing my neighbors, a crisis that is bankrupting my neighbors, a crisis that is causing our children's education to suffer. I am scared for the state of my community when I see $7 million on the table for a drawing, but I have unhoused neighbors outside dying and exposed. This is a shame, and this democracy is a sham if this is what you're prioritizing to work on while people are about to lose their homes. You know why you don't need another jail. Ask yourselves what happens when they end up outside and enter into your homeless sweeps to jail to unstable to sweep to jail pipeline. Ask your officers how they destroy all their belongings and throw it in the garbage. Ask them how they ticket families in their cars and wake people in tents up in the middle of the night with their sirens. Ask them how many times they've taken someone medication on purpose. When you work to expand a jail, you work to ensure its use, and you can no longer turn your head to the culture of violence within those walls. Don't do this, don't waste this money. We have only just begun this fight against it. I think I need you to know that we would do this with you. Like fight with you and next to you, not against you. We would help you learn and grow, and I'm sure vice versa. I don't know why you don't think we are the people you should sit down with. Is it because some of us are young looking, too radical, not in suits, don't meet your expectations of professionals? I'm not sure what it is, but I need you to get over it. One of you once told me that I am the most passionate person you have ever met. Well, it's because every day I'm lucky to witness and help create the new world that is possible with the very people you don't take seriously. These folks are the experts, the frontliners, and the ones who are experiencing these things, the ones who demand something different than the status quo, because the status quo is why we are in this crisis. We are in the crisis that was only exacerbated by this crisis, and now more than ever, you should be willing to learn from us. As you can tell, we are quite creative, kind, and intelligent. We are the future, and you are only temporarily holding us back from that. Our future will not be jails. You shared the vision with us once, and I implore you to do it again, because our future is much brighter and deserves better than this. I promise you. I see it being manifested every day. Do not block our limitless horizon by building a dark tower. We can build something better. Let us show you what lives outside of their box. Okay. Looking for a name here. Not sure who this is from. Ibrahim Bangwara. This e-comment is for item number 15 on the agenda this morning, and I ask that it be read aloud. Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ibrahim, and I am a constituent of Supervisor Don Natoli. I urge Supervisor Natoli and the rest of the board to vote no on item number 15, because we need to be building a county budget that prioritizes the health and well-being of everyone in our community, as COVID-19 causes the worst economic and health crisis we have seen in our lifetime. The idea of voting yes on this is nonsensical in any context, but especially amidst the COVID-19 crisis, when there is an urgency around releasing more people to save lives. And if we already down by 30%, what sense is there in pouring money into an already failed system? I hope everyone on this board makes the morally right decision today. This comment is from Kitty Bolt. This is a terrible way to spend money in Sacramento. The recent reduction of the jail population by 30% shows that Sacramento does not need a jail expansion. It needs criminal justice reform and investment in community services. Please vote no on this item. And then, let's see. Hello, Supervisor Cerna. My name is forgive me on this, Shambhavi Mishra, and I am a Sacramento County resident. I have been born and raised in this county and feel strongly about the $7 million that is being put in the expansion of the main jail in place of funds for schools and hospitals. I think that if we want to help build our society and help keep people safe, healthy, and educated, more money should be going to schools and hospitals rather than the prison system. Especially during the time of this pandemic, schools are shifting to remote learning, which requires more funding, and hospitals need more money to help people who are getting sicker. Hospitals' expenses will just be increasing more and more with this pandemic, and I think that the safety and health of our county residents is paramount and requires the most funding in this moment in time. By putting money into schools and hospitals, the money will be used in a more constructive way rather than put in the prison system. Thank you for making this process more democratic, and I provide you with the permission to read this comment out loud. Okay, and the last comment I have that, again, is a comment that gives me express direction to read it into the record, comes from Liz Blum. Ms. Blum says, the board needs to vote no on this item. During the worst health and economic crisis most of us have seen in our lifetime, we cannot be spending general funds on a jail that we do not need. The culture of violence and torture in the Sheriff's Department will not end with a new jail. The sheriff can meet the terms of the Mays versus Sacramento consent decree without building a new tower. If renovations in the main jail for ADA accessibility will decrease capacity, the solution is to incarcerate less people, not to expand the number of cages in our community. Vote no today. We will not stop until this jail plan is canceled. And I believe that's all I have. Again, dozens of comments that have come in recent days on item 15. The subset, again, that I just read represents those constituents who have asked that their comments be read into the record. They did submit them in writing electronically. Supervisor Natoli.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Stern, and thanks for reading those into the record. I know we all received copies of the comments. A couple of follow-on questions, and maybe either for Britt or Jeff Gassaway. One of them that I have is on the overall budget for what's being contemplated here, and I think, Jeff, you may have spoken to this relative to the architectural services and then those being fixed fees within the contract. Then we have the not-to-exceed fees, which relate to construction administration, geotechnical consultation, and closeout. I guess if you can maybe just take a moment to expand upon what those actually entail, but secondly, from a time frame, in respecting what you said earlier, both you and Mr. Gill, about touchbacks with this board, when would you anticipate, and what exactly is a closeout phase? I mean, you're talking about closeout from the standpoint of this body of work, or actually a construction? Because if you're going to have construction administration, I guess you're presuming that Knockton Lewis is going to be overseeing the design build? Or again, what's anticipated, Jeff?
So Knockton Lewis will be our criteria architect for the project, and they will be on contract through construction and then through closeout of construction.
So the money that's anticipated here, again, because there's a lot of steps in between where we're at in this moment and there, we're budgeting this money, but that money wouldn't be spent if those are not to exceeds, because that anticipates, one, that you get a construction contract and we go forward with a project of some sort. So why is that all embedded in this contract? And that money's not going to be spent. I guess it's going to be committed. And what I'm getting at is that the above the line, the 4.7 million are contemplated as the work is performed under a fixed fee arrangement. The below the cut line, including the contingency of nearly $650,000, are not monies that are going to be spent immediately, and it would be, I guess, dependent upon this board authorizing work beyond what would be included in the criteria architect services. And again, help me understand if I'm saying that incorrectly, but when I'm thinking about what's on the budget horizon for this county in the upcoming next fiscal year, and again, committing the money is one thing, but if we're not going to spend the money, and some of this wouldn't be spent till the end of whatever that is that we would do, then why do we now have to push the money into some account when we're going to be stressed here at this dais come June and September to look at services as it relates to a whole host of things? And so I guess I'm trying to get some sense about that, Jeff.
So we've negotiated this contract through programming and the end of construction. It's the cost for them for the duration of the project. And once we execute the contract, I believe, if I'm correct, we need to encumber those funds against that contract. They may not be spent right away, but we need to commit.
So some of these...
So if I could jump in, when we did end up into this agreement, this was contemplated in the numbers that we had. We knew what was coming down for each fiscal year. So this number is not a new number for us. We've known this number is coming.
Right.
But to Jeff's point, we have a contract at hand. We have to encumber the funds. And when we're doing the budget, we had anticipated that this was going to be a cost that we have in there.
No, and I get that. I mean, this number isn't a new number in that sense. Now, I guess my question is though, what we're going to encumber the work that's going to be done before we get to some other decision points, but we're committing basically Knockton Lewis to the entirety of this project, because
Let's just say that for whatever reason, you do not want to continue.
Yeah, well, or there's some other modifications, yeah.
Let's just say we do that. Then we will unencumber the funds, and then we will unwind the contract.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically where we are. I mean, if something happens that we bring you something back and the wish of majority of the board is not to proceed with it, we're not going to spend all 7 million on
Right,
it. We will spend whatever we did to get us to that point. But that's how this contract we've had is we negotiated in good faith with them to get to this spot. And then there's jumping off, if you will, points for us that if we don't want to get there, we just don't move forward.
And I appreciate what's been negotiated. I guess, and again, I'm not even contesting that as much as I'm asking about, the body of work, the $4.7 million and maybe some additional, and obviously that's why you have a contingency there, is that's the biggest first piece of work. At that point in time, then you're going to be back to this board to talk about, what's contemplated in that, and you're going to, and the next question I want to ask about who's going to do the staff analysis behind this, but that committing all that money in this, given budget year, basically roping all that off. So before we get into any discussions about what happens for 2021 in the general fund and any other fund, we have roped off $7 million. Now, 4.7 or $5 million would be a lesser chunk.
I'm going to keep belaboring the point. Yeah. Not only are we roping that off, we have roped much more on the operations side. So as we've been in discussions with the board on it, when we entered this settlement agreement, we knew exactly how much money each fiscal year we had to rope in, and that's been the situation we've been in for the last 16, 17 months, trying to figure out how to balance our budget, realizing money has to be roped off. That is what we agreed to do. So we're roping that money off, the operating money. We're looking at it with the population coming down. Is there any variance we can have in there? But money has to be roped up for us at this point to proceed implementation on this piece right here.
Okay, then I'm going to press the point a little bit, because I guess for the criteria architect services, what do you anticipate, what's the time frame for doing that work?
I believe I don't recall.
Is it a year's worth of work? Is it 9 months worth of work? 18 months? Or give me a range.
Well, I
then,
mean,
Jeff.
it's for the length of the project. It's not just, this contract is for the length of the project until the facility is built through closeout.
Right, but that's, I'm asking above the line, the $4.7 million, I'm looking at page 18 of the attachment, which is the contract.
Okay.
So what I'm asking you about is all this work that has to occur before you can get below the line to, to doing whatever gets done, whatever
I
gets done.
understand now.
Yeah, so what's anticipated? How long does this take?
I'm going to say 8 to 12 months.
Okay, so it would be probably the better part of the next fiscal year. And then we would have a subsequent fiscal year. To my point is that it doesn't show a lack of commitment to the project under consent decree or any other aspect of this if we did this piece, unless, and encumber all that. But then, give us some, who knows what we're going to be looking at in September of this year. I mean, again, we know we're going to be looking at this. So I guess that's my point, Nav. Is that,
I understand your point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how we do contracts, is that we encumber what comes in and we work against that encumbrance. I mean, that was a struggle, if I could just keep coming back to when we entered into this agreement. We knew all these started becoming fixed costs for us. That's the first pull we're having on our numbers.
My point being, though, is that even if we anticipate going to construction, that we're not going to spend that money, and it doesn't show any lack of commitment on our part.
I think, what you kind of take the point a little bit further, if we only fund $4 million, that means next year that $3 million is up for discussion again. But that's not what we're agreeing to. There's stuff that we've agreed to in contracts that if that's what the board wishes, is not to fund the full contract, that's a different discussion we need to have with what the product we have in front of you. Because we went with the assumption that we have a contract we got to do, this is what the contract value is going to be, this is how much on the operating side we got to have. Those are the first call on the numbers that we have right now. After that, we start balancing the budget we need to do. And I understand the point that we could short budget here, we could short something here, we can take less, we can do less, but eventually we got to make that number up. Number's not going to go away until we do not do the project.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I think that's not inconsistent with what I'm saying. I'm just saying we could have divided the work in a way that you do your criteria architectural services, and then you visit the construction phase.
The uncertainty that comes in with the 3 million, what we have to demonstrate to folks that we have an agreement with and the courts is that the county is committed to proceed forward in implementing this. And that's what we did the good faith a couple of years ago. We did a portion of it, then we put the full amount in the budget. This is just another step to show that we are doing what we need to do to abide by the terms of what we have agreed to. I think, Britt, you want it?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, Britt Ferguson, in case you don't recognize me, County's Chief Fiscal Officer. Just to reinforce what Mr. Gill said, I think I understand your concerns, and believe me, I'm as concerned as you are, and maybe more concerned than some of you about what we're facing in terms of the fiscal situation for the remainder of this year and going into fiscal year 2021. I think, though, the point here is we've made a commitment to the plaintiffs in this case to proceed with this type of improvements in the jails. The precise design of it is, as Mr. Gassaway alluded to, we're going to be looking at given potential changes in population and other things, but there are significant investments that are going to need to be made. And whether or not this contract is approved with this money in it, we will be recommending setting aside the full amount in the budget. And it's important to do that, one, to show our commitment that we made when we negotiated the consent decree, and secondly, because we recognize that we're going to have those costs in one form or another, maybe not that exact amount, but to a great degree in that amount, regardless of what we do. And what we don't want to do is put ourselves in a situation where we get to the point where we have those costs and we don't have the money to make those required expenditures. So regardless, we believe the prudent thing to do, and believe me, if we could avoid it, I'd love to avoid it. I mean, we can use every bit of money that we can get. But the reality is, this is a commitment that we've made. This is something we're going to have to do, and it doesn't make a lot of sense not to basically set the money aside for something we know is a commitment that we're going to have to make.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just again, as I reflect on this, and certainly this topic is one that has many different elements to it, but and I appreciate what you just said. Certainly, I'm not saying fudge on any commitment, but as a member of this board and someone who stood for election on any number of occasions, I made a commitment to the people of this county to do my best from a standpoint of working with our professional staff, overseeing our fiduciary responsibility, and through good times or not so good times, to make those decisions, as tough as they may be, relative to budget matters. What I anticipate, and what's certainly hit our community and this nation and the world, in the last few weeks, is certainly going to impact us, and none of us know the magnitude relative to the economics of that. But there's a commitment that I've made, certainly to do when we settle lawsuits, to be good to that, but also to the people of this county as it relates to all the services that we're responsible for in a $4.4 billion budget. And so the reason I'm asking a question this morning is not because I'm taking any exception to the process or to the fact that, we made a commitment. But there's a much bigger commitment that, again, I take it very personally as it relates to the people of this county. And it's not about debating whether or not we're going to do the work at the jail, but it's about what we're going to be faced with in a few months that's unknown to the degree that we know at least that there's a dark cloud as it relates to what we're going to be able to accomplish. And I get it. We rope off money for lots of things, and you do a tremendous job in trying to help us have the information before us in that budget document. But I am concerned that having lived in, and certainly Supervisor Peters and Supervisor Stern got the tail end of it all, that last recession, that nobody has a crystal ball. But we also know that we go looking for nickels sometimes, trying to keep things in place that relate to the lifeline services for people in this county, and to things that relate to the quality of life, to their daily lives, for people of all ages and from all walks of life. And I'm not saying we fudge on a commitment at all. That's not my point.
I don't think if that's what we were giving a signal, that's not what we meant.
No, I know.
No, we absolutely respect that. We are in the same boat. We have other services. I think our point that we're just making is that we know this commitment is there. I'm going to take it to the next step. Let's just say we do not fund the full thing and we go fund something else. That means next year then we are going to have to start cutting other programs, and that has been something that Britt and I worked very hard, is not to pit programs against programs. If we know there's a cost that we have, we work pretty hard to make sure that we honor whatever commitment the board's made. You have a lot of programs that you've committed to. You will notice that last year's budget, there was a lot of stuff that we did not touch. What's happened with coronavirus is a separate issue. We knew we already had a fiscal issue because of this. That's the point that we were coming from. In no way, shape, or form are we saying that this trumps all the other obligations that you have. We'll work with the budget with you. We'll make sure we give you a sensible budget, given the board priorities that you guys have, a lot of the different programs you want to see funded. Absolutely, we're committed to that. Our only point is that we know what this cost is. It's not dissimilar from other programs that we know, that if we know it's going to cost us X, we fund X, and we stand behind that when we make you the budget recommendation.
Nav, if I could. But I just wanted to finish my thought, and I appreciate what you just said, that if you budgeted $5 million for the work that's going to be over the next 8 or 12 months. Granted, you're still going to spend the other $2 million, and some of this is contingency, so you may not spend it at all. And some you're not going to spend till the end of whatever project it is. Now, yeah, you're going to end up being committed to it, but it's still done incrementally, and again, you still have a commitment. But you're able to, in the context of if you had $2 million more on the table, not that you wouldn't have to look for it next year or maybe in some subsequent year, because some of this doesn't come till the very, very end, whenever that is, that gives us a little more breathing room. It still advances the work, doesn't say we have a lack of commitment. I guess that was my point.
No, we understand that.
Yeah.
We're not debating that point. We understand that. It's just how we're... Yeah, I understand your point.
But if you encumber it all now, then it's roped off. To what Britt said, what you said is that...
But there's a lot of things we rope off, Supervisor Natoli. This is not the only one. If we start unroping stuff, that gets us into a very unattainable position, because we have a lot of different programs that we could say, unrope it. I don't want to get into that situation. I think the point that I'm making is we fully understand what you're saying. We're trying to fund this at a level, and we will bring back a budget that does reflect what the board priorities are. Unfortunately, because of the expenses with this program, we've been under this cloud, not the coronavirus thing. We've been under this cloud, which has made our jobs more difficult, more challenging to present to you a budget that reflects all your values. And we do our best not to cut programs that we know that mean something to you, mean something in the community. The 9-10 example, I mean, hindsight can always be 20/20. There's a lot of times that recommendations were made that went too deep into programs. We got into that kind of discussion. We don't want to do that. So that's my main point, is that we fully understand that. We know each one of you have that obligation. It's a much broader one. The only point, I fully understand that. The only thing we're trying to get at on this is what we know it's going to be. It's no different than any other programs. If we know what's going to cost, we fully fund and we move on to the next program.
Just a final comment, and I appreciate that now. But again, that experience of 10 years ago certainly sticks with me, sticks with all the folks that were a part of that, and obviously you were here as well. And when we had to make decisions between closing parks and cutting Meals on Wheels to homebound seniors, and all those discussions, and again, we went deep, very, very deep, and I think we've tried to rebuild as we come out of this. And I guess my point was being that if $2 million would have looked like a heck of a lot of money in 2010, because again, the cuts that we made, and again, you've taken a different approach, and I appreciate your administration of that. It's just that, again, it's not a lack of commitment. We made a commitment to the folks that we maintain the parks. We end up closing parks. We said we deliver meals to seniors who had no other source of nutrition. Those were cuts, and there was a whole lot of other things. You could look at mental health and social services, and and municipal services. It was awful. And we laid off 1,500 people, and again, $2 million may not sound like a lot of money in the context of things in a $4.4 billion budget, but recognizing that you're still going to have to spend it. There's a lot of things we're going to spend ongoing. I just wanted to assure that we had some flexibility, because understanding about encumbering things, and then it gets roped off. You have a commitment, but spending it, you're not going to spend it next year. That's my point. So
understood.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other members of the board have comments or questions of staff?
Mr. Chair, if I could be in the queue.
Yes, Supervisor Kennedy.
Okay, thank you, sir. I completely understand the concerns of Supervisor Natoli. While I wasn't on the board in 2008, I was a school board member, which was no walk in the park. So I completely concur with the concern. The question I had is probably best aimed at Mr. Ferguson, who was as intimately involved with the mediation process and the development of the consent decree as anyone. And I'm really asking for your opinion, Mr. Ferguson, as much as anything, because you probably don't know for sure. But in your opinion, do you think that the plaintiffs in the case would see, if we didn't move forward on this, a lack of commitment to meeting our obligations?
It's always hard to say, but I do believe they would see that as a lack of commitment, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Peters.
Thank you. Supervisor Kennedy and I, along with Ms. Ferguson and others, were part of the negotiating team on this, and some, I don't know whether we won or lost that, but we definitely had a settlement, and I see this as an important moment to demonstrate our commitment to upholding the legal settlement that we entered into at that time. So I'm going to move the item.
Okay, the item's been moved by Supervisor Peters and seconded by Supervisor Frost. Before we go to a vote, Supervisor Tully?
Can I ask one further question, though, as relates to the contingency? Do we have to build a contingency? Is that something you could come back to us with? Because if you're not going to use all the money below the line, as I've pointed out, you would have money available to continue the work. You're going to be back at different junctures, even $640,000 available to this board, and what we may be up against in the next few months would be important. And that's not a lack of commitment. That basically said you'd have to return here for the contingency.
We can discuss with the contractor. We did have it as part of our negotiation. If I can offer, if we don't need that 640, we'll keep that in mind as we're looking at the budget. And if we need to do something different, we can do something different with them.
Thanks. I'm going to make an asterisk for that when we talk about budget in June and September. So thanks.
Probably going to be a lot of asterisks. Before we go to a roll call vote, I just want to, again, thank the members of the public that have taken time to offer their comments electronically. As far as my position, I plan to support the motion. A number of the commenters, as I noted when I read their comments aloud, made reference to adding capacity, adding bed space, dark towers, and hopefully, by way of perhaps some clarification this morning with the help of our staff about what the action in front of us is really about today, I see our action today as actually advancing better conditions in our jails. And that's something I think we can all agree is the right thing to do. So I plan to support the motion. With that, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Supervisors Frost? Aye. Kennedy?
Aye.
Natoli?
Aye.
Peters?
Aye.
Cerna?
Aye.
And it passes with a unanimous vote.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we go to item number 4?
Yes. Yeah, I was going to get us come back to item number 4. I also want to make mention of the fact that we did receive 2 comments on item 4. I believe they're from Unite Here. So, Ms. Nichols?
So I believe you all have a copy of the amended language.
Yes.
Okay. If, with your indulgence, I would recommend one.
Can you speak
Yeah,
up,
can you
please?
hear me okay? So I would just recommend one change to this, which is the phrase, so what this says is, whereas any financial relief the department may be able to provide would be available to tenants which, if eligible, apply for and are able to procure a loan pursuant to the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, Sections 1102 and 1106 of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, the CARES Act, or any successor program under the Small Business Administration that provides for fully or partially forgivable loans, covering payroll expense and rent. The one change I would recommend is that we strike "and are able to procure." I'm sorry, I didn't notice this earlier. The tenants don't control whether the programs run out of money. Congress does. So my understanding is the PPP had run out of money, but Congress is voting perhaps today to add $310 billion to that program.
Where is the procure language?
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4,
first
fifth
sentence.
whereas.
It's the
1,
fifth
2,
whereas
3.
it's underlined the
Second line.
change that we have.
Yes.
The first sentence
The
of the-
underlined changes are
Procure,
what
able
we're
to
adding.
procure, okay.
Yes, I would just strike that.
So explain that again.
Sure. So tenants can apply for these programs, but as you may know, the Paycheck Protection Program ran out of money, but Congress may vote, certainly this week and probably today, to add more money to it. So if they don't control if they get the grant, because the programs may run out of money.
I understand, but
What's the new language?
So
Here's the new language is as underlined.
the new language in the resolution is as underlined, and Cindy's asking, instead of what is written there, to strike out in the second sentence, or the second line, and are able to procure. It's actually less restrictive and more tenant favorable. In other words, all they have to do is apply for it. They don't have to actually procure it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we've put it up there.
I don't know if you can zoom in.
Zoom in, Cindy has taken out, apply for and able to procure. She's recommending taking that out.
So what if they apply for it, qualify, and then don't take it? We've heard some of the businesses have done that.
Not businesses this size.
No,
I would be surprised.
So essentially,
I guess that's a possibility, but it's if they've applied, if they've gone through the whole process of applying, they need the money.
Well, we again, it was reported on the news. I mean, I won't say the particular firm, that they basically turned the money back. Because they saw greater need, and they were big enough, but I mean, they weren't a gigantic firm. I mean, they were in the food business.
Does it legally, does it put us in a compromised position to keep it as is?
It doesn't put the county in any compromised position, but it puts the tenants in worse position because they have to actually apply and procure.
you're saying you can amend you want to be able to amend their contract even if they're not able to.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Get it. I get it. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments or questions for staff on this?
Move the item.
Okay, Chair will second.
Move based on the changes.
Yeah.
Roll call.
vote.
Oh, sorry. Supervisors Frost,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Natoli,
Aye.
Peters,
Aye.
Cerna,
Aye,
and it passes with a unanimous vote.
great, thank you. Okay. Next item.
Do you want to go to your off agenda, or you want to hold those?
Let's do off agenda, and I believe you have
Two?
two that you're going to read?
Yes.
Okay,
Are we through with consent?
yeah.
Yeah, we took consent already. So I'm going to go into the off-agenda comments. This is from United Public Employees, Ted Samara, Executive Director. Today, I write to you with the utmost urgent concerns for our members who have been categorized as essential employees and must report to work to provide essential services for your constituents, the citizens of the County of Sacramento. It is incumbent upon you as the essential elected leaders to this county to ensure that all employees are being provided the essential health and safety equipment to protect them as much as possible from the COVID-19 virus while at work for the County of Sacramento. I ask each and every one of you, have you inquired about this for your employees? If you have, then you would have been aware that this is not the case. This is not the case for the UPE members who must work out in the field. This is not the case for the social workers who continually and admirably come into work to ensure the safety and well-being of the utmost vulnerable citizens in the County of Sacramento, the elderly and youth. Social workers are coming into work uncertain if they may be exposed to COVID-19 that day, then going home and exposing their families. However, they continue to show up to work because of the passion and professionalism they have for their job, protecting the health and safety of our youth, senior adults, and families in which they service for the county and you as the elected officials. The uncertainty to not know if the county is equipped with the proper PPE to prevent them from being exposed adds to an already stressful position. This is the case for the UPE members who are working in all county departments who continue to come into work to provide the essential services which keep this county, the county which you were elected to oversee and serve. Many of the departments have not provided employees a mask. I ask you, have these departments even tried to order masks, a recommendation made by our own county public health officer? UPE has submitted a proposal and counter-proposals to the County of Sacramento, which seeks a modest, reasonable, and well-deserved hazard differential for our members to offset any incurred costs to protect them while they are at work providing essential services for your constituents, the citizens of the County of Sacramento. A proposal which will ensure the safety and health of our members and all employees. UPE prays that you value and appreciate your employees by accepting the proposal and counter-proposals. Lastly, it is essential that you, as elected leaders, help by using whatever political powers you may yield to assist in getting PPE for all UPE members and for all employees. The second comment is from Ms. Kristen Dobbin. Dear Supervisors, allowing the public to submit public comment via email to be included in the public record and distributed to board members is not sufficient or reasonable public engagement for a public meeting and is unacceptable. I believe you are in violation of the Brown Act by not having listed time for public comments for items not specifically on the agenda on your agenda. Crises are times for increased communication and engagement, not less. There are many local municipalities and counties that are managing to conduct board meetings with live participation, and you need to be doing so as well. Specifically, I ask that you implement the following for your next meeting. Ensure that those without email addresses and/or internet access still have a means by which to provide public comment. Ensure that public comment on specific agenda items is heard during those specific agenda times. Ensure opportunities for real-time public comments. As we know to be the case with all public meetings and have seen in our forums, it is not possible to anticipate all that one might want to say in a response to an item ahead of time. Constituents need to be able to respond to your conversations on individual agenda items. Real-time participation opportunities are therefore critical. Provide a separate call-in for Spanish language interpretation services in other languages as needed. Ensure full compliance with laws requiring double comment time for those employing interpretation, either through the county or independently. Attached to this email is a list of best practices for ensuring full participation remotely. I ask that you instruct your staff to look at this and other resources and immediately develop a new plan for future meetings.
Great, thank you. With regard to the last commenter, I just want to hear briefly from our county council just to make sure that the accusation in the letter is that we're not respecting the spirit or intent of the Brown Act somehow under these unusual circumstances. I just want to hear from you, Ms. Travis, if you're feeling very comfortable with our kind of newly established protocols.
Yes, as you know, the governor has relaxed some of the Brown Act requirements, including limiting access to the public in person for meetings. I believe that what we've implemented, which is accepting comments before the meeting, during the meeting, allowing the public to come forward to this location and submit public comments in writing, which will then be read into the record. And additionally, we're reading comments into the record if requested, does comply with the spirit of what the governor has implemented at this point.
Okay, great, thank you. Supervisor Tully?
Yeah, just a question though. So again, not knowing how long this all may be in place relative to separation of folks, distancing and such, that I know a number of different agencies. We sit on a number of boards, but have at least contemplated. And I guess technologies there, obviously, the management of it is difficult, but receiving commentary via over the telephone or through video conferencing. I guess if this is going to be sustained, from standpoint of we can accommodate 24 people in these chambers, and we have some staff with us today, and that's great. But I think from the standpoint of the public, if this goes on for months and months and months, or who knows, maybe for a year or two, I think we're going to have to look at.
I hope not.
Well, no. I just mean relative to distance. I hope. No, I'm not being.
No, we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I was only reacting to. I hope we don't go 1 year, 2 years.
Well, I hope not either. I mean, I'm just saying because again, I don't think the interaction that, is so important to the deliberations we do here. I mean, we're going to meet the Brown Act requirements, and we're doing what we can. I appreciate, Chair reading in the record and certainly the clerk's office.
We evaluate every 2 weeks with our public health officials on what to do.
Right, and I think
It's very active when we look at it.
as the times change and orders are either relaxed or changed, we obviously have to look into that as it relates to what the governor has allowed. It is sort of an interactive process, but I think right now with the current health orders and what's being understood from the public health officers, that what we're doing is acceptable.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I'd also just like to point out too that I think our staff have been extraordinary in terms of their flexibility and this is something we've never been through, so it's evolving as we go along. In fact, the announcement that I read at the beginning of the meeting actually changed from the last time we had a meeting, and in terms of the substance of what I was reading. So I would just again I'd like to ask for the public's patience and understanding. It's again something relatively new to us, and we're doing our best to make sure that the public maintains its guaranteed right to petition this government. So appreciate everyone's patience.
Supervisor Cerna, may I ask the board for a reconsideration of item number 4? Supervisor Peters had announced at the beginning of the meeting that she was recusing from that item, and she moved the item.
Oh, okay. So you need a new motion?
Need a motion to reconsider, and you'll vote on that, and then you'll
The chair
vote
will
again.
move the item.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Frost. Roll call vote, please.
Frost,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Natoli,
Aye.
Peters, Cerna.
Aye.
Okay, and so the motion carries on the reconsideration, and now we need a motion to move the item.
Chair will move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Frost, Kennedy,
Aye.
Natoli,
Aye.
Cerna,
Aye.
and the motion carries, with Supervisor Peters recusing for a potential conflict of interest.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Next item, please.
And now we're on to item 48. This is to authorize the county executive to apply for, accept, and draw down federal or state funding related to the novel coronavirus pandemic COVID-19 emergency, including retroactive authorization to apply for and accept funds.
Excuse me. Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Your board is well aware that as a result of the COVID-19 public health emergency, the county is experiencing and will continue to experience additional expenditures, and we anticipate a loss of revenue. At this point, we don't know the exact amount of additional expenditures that we will be incurring, nor the amount of revenue loss that we will experience, but we do expect those amounts to be significant. The state and federal governments, as you're well aware, have approved funding to assist local governments during the emergency. Specifically, Congress thus far has passed 3 major coronavirus relief bills: the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, commonly called the CARES Act. There is currently, as you heard earlier, a 4th Relief Act before the Congress now that it looks like it may get out today. The exact components of that are not currently known, but potentially that would also include some additional assistance to states and local governments, and there will potentially be future relief provisions either at the state or at the federal level as well. These acts include funding through many different programs, some of them existing programs, some of them new programs. For example, just one example is the federal government has increased the federal share of federal financial participation from 50% to 56% in certain programs. That's going to happen automatically. We'll just get that additional money. In other cases, we have to apply. We would apply through the normal procedures for programs that already exist. In other cases, these are new programs, and procedures, policies and procedures either have or haven't been issued. And in some cases we will have to apply, in some cases we won't, in some cases we don't know exactly how it will work, and it's changing daily in terms of what the rules are and what the requirements are. So in order to facilitate responding nimbly, quickly to these opportunities for both grants, revenue, in some cases loans, whatever it may be, staff is requesting that your board authorize the county executive retroactively actually to apply for, accept, draw down funds that may be available, and that he or that either he through his designee or he determines are in the best interest of the county. To accomplish that, we're currently working on setting in place policies and procedures that will allow us to make sure that we carefully review any requests to apply for or accept funds, to make sure that those requests are, that any decisions are based on the county's general practices, things like any limitations that there may be on the use of funds, issues of sustainability if that's an issue, match requirements. We want to be sure whether there are match requirements, and if so, are there things that we can meet, and any other obligations associated with the grant. One of the other things that we're proposing is that we would provide the board with a monthly update on grants, applications submitted, grants applied for, grants accepted, and so that the board can have a sense of where things are on an ongoing basis. As I mentioned, we're asking for this authority retroactively because things are changing so quickly. One of the examples of the 20-plus programs that are that are attached to here, and there may be more, those are the ones we have on that list, is the Coronavirus Relief Fund. That's an example where on the 8th of April, counties and cities throughout the country were notified that we had to register by April 17th or lose any opportunity to get potentially substantial portion of money. We obviously did that because we didn't want to lose that opportunity, but we're seeking retroactive authorization. And there may be other things out there that are occurring even now as we try and make sure that we don't lose opportunities for funding. As I said, there's an attachment here that has over 20 programs where there is either new programs or existing programs that have been augmented by the various acts. In the actual agenda item, we identified 3 just as sort of examples, and because they can be fairly significant in terms of the county. One is the Coronavirus Relief Fund. This is $150 billion nationwide to help stabilize state, tribal, and local governments. It's estimated that California will get about $15.3 billion, and that the county, our share would be between $182 million and $270 million, depending on whether the city of Sacramento applies. Basically, if there's a city within a county that is over 500,000 in population, they can decide to register, and if they do that, then they get a portion of the money. Otherwise, it all goes to the county. That money must be used to cover expenditures directly related to the coronavirus, responding to the coronavirus. Those expenditures must occur between March 1st and December 30th of 2020, and they cannot be expenditures that the county is already committed to in its budget. So in other words, there's a non-supplanting provision, as there often are in these various programs. The rules have still not been issued for this program, so we don't know exactly how it will work or what the eligibility requirements are. We do know that we've been told anyway, and we don't know if this is actually absolutely true either, that once we did register on the 16th, we have not yet received certification that our registration met all the criteria and that we will get the money. Once that happens, we understand we will get half the money pretty much immediately, but we will have to make sure, we'll have to be careful in how we spend that money because, again, the rules aren't there yet. We have to be very careful that we don't end up in a situation where we spend that and it turns out later it's not an eligible expenditure. The Act provides that the final decision on that will be made by the Inspector General of the Treasury Department, and that if the Inspector General determines that an expenditure was not a legitimate expenditure, then the grant will be turned into a loan and will have to be repaid. So that's obviously would be an area of some concern. Right now, this bill does not provide for backfilling loss of revenue. There is some effort in the the bill now before the Congress to provide flexibility for that purpose in this bill. Don't know if that will end up being included in there or not. So it would not allow us to backfill revenue loss, only actual additional expenditures, at least as it's now written. Another piece of area of funding is in the airport area. The CARES Act includes $10 billion of relief dedicated to airports, which, as you heard earlier and you've talked about, obviously, are pretty hard hit by the coronavirus emergency. We know now that our share of that will be about $50 million, and so that is money that will be eligible for expenditure in certain areas, and also that money can be used to basically supplant existing expenditures, and so that will be of significant benefit to the airports. I'm sure Ms. Nickel can speak to that if you have any questions on that. And then finally, just highlighted one other, the state and local public health funding, the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act and the CARES Acts together provide a total of $2.4 billion for surveillance, epidemiology, laboratory capacity, infection control, mitigation, and other preparedness response activities. They've already allocated the first $560 million of that, and our share of that is $1.2 million. The remaining amount, $1.9 billion, has not yet been allocated. We don't know what our share of that would be. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
There's 2 points I wanted to make. When it comes to drawing money down, we have, as the board knows, you ratified our local emergency. That gets us into the cost recovery accounting that we do through OES. All our departments, if it's a corona-related expenditure, they're filling those things out. Steve can tell me, and his group's looking at it, Ben Lemare, our finance director, and they're looking at it too. We want to make sure that as we're accounting for that, when we put the claims in, that we do meet all the criteria that the federal government has. As the board's aware that sometimes we do put reimbursements in when an emergency happens, and they do turn it back and saying that that was not an eligible expense. That's the point that Brett was getting at. We're being very careful in what we're categorizing to make sure that we do not run afoul of any rules we know now. New rules come in, we're going to go back and look at that portion too. Second piece is I just got word from NACO that the NACO executive is working with the White House right now to see if there's an opportunity in the new bill for the revenue loss that the counties are getting, is to see if we can get that given to us. Again, that's not, cities are getting that. It's not a city versus county issue for us, but it's more that the county, this is a county emergency, public health emergency. We're in the forefront of this and get us some reimbursement for that. So we'll see how that goes. There might be more money coming our way if we're successful in our lobbying.
Yeah, on that last point, Mr. Gill, I think you and probably Natasha and I have all been on the same NACO conference calls in the past few weeks relative to what we're trying to do at the federal level to influence Congress's action on this for counties across the country. My understanding is that there continues to be some differentiation between counties of certain sizes, and I think in the past it's been 500,000 population has been a cutoff. I think there's been some discussion about 50,000 for much smaller counties. I assume that is still going to be a likely component part of any formula that would be used for relief for counties.
That's correct.
Okay.
500,000 was an arbitrary number of urban counties,
right.
But smaller counties have also, they're experiencing the same problem, and that's what the lobbying is back, is let's get more counties in this.
Gotcha. Okay. Supervisor Frost?
If we're in a position of maybe not using the funds exactly the way they interpret as appropriate or usable funds for coronavirus, and it recasts into a loan, is there a penalty, and what is the interest on the loan? And I guess the question I have relates to, I heard it was like 1%, and I don't know what the terms of payback are, but if your mind begins to wander, you might think that might not be a bad loan, so is there a penalty, or do we have to?
So again, rules have not been issued. What we understand is it will be essentially market rate interest is what was in the language. I don't know what that works out to right now, and I think there was a payback period. I'm thinking it might have been 5 years, but I will look at that. But I think we would always want to try and comply with the with the requirements.
If I could just jump
yeah.
in, for us to get disqualified on expenditures is not a good record to have, because there's future emergencies coming. And if a jurisdiction took advantage of that, I think the feds will look at it very differently going forward. I think what they're really trying to get us is the money to use for what we need to do. And that's what our whole goal is going to be, that we had coronavirus-related expenditures. If we made a mistake somewhere, we made a mistake. But
Right.
that's a different one than trying to get money to get a loan, to get something else. Some other jurisdictions might try that, but that's not where our mindset is. It's more on what can we do to get.
Well, in a lot of the teleconferences that I've been in where small businesses have been in that conversation, it's kind of a, if you don't use it on appropriate funds, you will have to pay it back. And, you know, there was conversations around a 1%. So it seemed like a more casual conversation than you better use it for that, or it's not going to be good.
Their rules are a little bit different. I mean,
Okay.
we are a subsect of the county, of the state, and the state with the federal government, so our relationships are very different, that if we make errors like that, or they deem that we did something, I think the consequences, no one's suggesting this, we do not want to burn any of these bridges with the governor
Right.
or the president.
Right.
Thank you.
I would just add to that in fact, just yesterday afternoon, there was a NACO conference call on the subject, and one of the political hurdles in front of us right now is convincing some of the skeptics in the Senate that counties would not abuse this. There's some opinion out there, apparently, in Washington, that somehow some counties might intentionally try and work the system, so to speak, with another relief package, and not use the funds and the resources for COVID-related purposes. And the more we can work with our brethren counties across the country to dispel that misconception, I think the better. That's really kind of the way we're trying to walk lockstep through NACO to convince the leadership in Washington that this is desperately needed. And yes, we fully intend to use those resources for COVID-related purposes. Supervisor Tully?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some specific questions regarding some of the categories here, Britt. I'll just start with the funding is coming for low-income home energy assistance program. It's on page 7 of the attachment. And I recognize that we're not a provider of electric or gas services, but we do provide water and sewer and garbage to homeowners and certainly business owners. And I know that in previous board member comments, I had asked about what we were doing. I've seen what the sanitation district is doing relative to some of its customer base, but I don't know whether any of these monies would be available for folks who might be getting behind in their water bills. We're coming into a warmer part of the year. Water usage is up. I don't know if we've suspended any water turnoffs because of...
Those have been suspended,
Okay.
but we're waiting on the state of some guidelines. And this is an item that, as we are putting our rules in place, we'll absolutely be looking at how to draw that money down, what are the rules behind it.
And again, guidance we can offer to customers. I mean, again, when people haven't gotten so far behind that, we'll probably see more appeals as we go into the spring and summer with folks, having to juggle their own household finances. And so I think having whatever guidance we can offer as relative to assistance that either we can help draw down on or that we're going to provide through our utility services. Because again, the difference here is with the county and city governments versus private utilities, they can shut off or seek, reimbursement for bills they're owed. All we do is lien it here. Yeah. We put it on the tax bill.
Private or public,
Yeah.
shut-offs are out at this point in California.
What's that?
You cannot shut off at this point.
Right, you can't shut off, but we can continue to accrue penalties.
That's what we're looking. That's
okay.
what we're asking the state. What is your disposition? As you know, just with our water purveyors here, we have 30 of them.
Right.
We want to have the same rule that applies to everybody, so they're coming up with those rules.
Okay, because the only I said distinction a moment ago. I don't want to be repetitive here, but they can all go seek to get their money from their customer here at the county, where we get our money no matter what, even though it may be delayed, because those penalties accrue, and then we lien those charges. So I want to be sensitive to that. So thanks for that. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about was, and maybe this is for Britt or for Bruce, that there were significant additional money made available both in the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP and CalFresh, as well as in the Women, Infant, and Children Program that provides certain benefits to families, those mothers, certain families, pregnant infants and children up to age 5. Significant amount of money that comes in. We have, and we administer those programs. And so I guess I'm curious as to how either we'll get the message out, but what it means to people who may not have previously qualified or saw some termination of benefits. So I guess I'm curious.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor. So of course, those programs are also administered at the state level too. You have state state oversight, local operation. So we're in close contact with the state about the flow of that money and what direction they're going to give to counties and its use. But you're right, there are some opportunities there.
Because one of the things it does with SNAP CalFresh, it suspends any time limits, at least for some period of time. It's
also the work requirements associated with the CalFresh program have been suspended for a period of time, all of which flows down through the state, and then we interact with them.
The additional funds, though, and then I'll just shift to the WIC program, where, again, and it's quoting from this document, that there needs to be some determination that, quote, either the mother, the child, or family members are at nutritional risk by a health professional. I don't know whether we do that certification to the county. We have a third-party provider through our health clinics partners, but and I don't know what this means in additional dollars. But again, there's a at-risk population, certainly in this community, as there are in the communities throughout the state. And I just want to be sure that we can make sure we maximize. And I know it requires additional work. We're having folks who are already, feeling the brunt of additional benefit requests coming through, certainly the unemployment. But I got to imagine for TANF, which there was extensions for that as well. So maybe some summary report without, asking for a lot of additional background, just as to what we're seeing in the caseload, the numbers of folks that are applying for aid, I guess that's a better way to term it, and how we're helping people get qualified or get those benefit extensions, because that's real money that can flow to people in this county. And one thing with CalFresh, we know those folks are going to spend a lot of that money at local grocers, maybe at farmers markets, at in different locations. So that money circulates in our community and helps them obviously get the nutritional benefits that come out of all that. Okay, thanks.
Okay. We don't have any public comments on this. Okay. Any further questions of staff? Supervisor Kennedy, any questions of staff? No hearing. Okay. I'll take that as a no. Yeah. With that, I'll.
Sorry about that. No.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the item.
Okay, it's been moved by Supervisor Peters. Second by Supervisor Natoli. Roll call vote, please.
Frost. Aye. Kennedy.
Aye.
Natoli.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
And unanimous vote.
Great, thank you.
Item 49 is the final adoption of the Americans with Disabilities Act Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan Update.
Good morning, Chair Cerna and Board of Supervisors. David Devine, Director of Personnel Services. Good to see you this morning. I'm here to present to you the final adoption of the American with Disabilities Act Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan. This item was brought to you in October to introduce the item, and since then we've done a lot of work. Staff has worked very closely with our stakeholders. I just have a very brief PowerPoint I'm going to go over with you this morning. Some of it may be redundant. So why are we doing this? County or the code of federal regulations require that the public entities or entities have a self-evaluation and transition plan. This is something that the county has been working on for several years. It's been done very piecemeal, and this is the first time we have a fully integrated project incorporating the self-evaluation and the transition plans that includes facilities and what's in the public right-of-way. There's some milestones that we had in March in 2005, and this was done by the Department of Transportation. They had a transition plan that was approved. Then in April 2013, they worked in conjunction with Regional Transit to include bus stops. And then going back to 2017, it's not highlighted on this slide, but we engaged the Sally Swanson Associates to take a look at the whole transition plan, the ADA transition plan, to take in consideration the department's programs and services, activities, access, self-evaluation, and interaction. Also, we had them take a look at all our public works and all our buildings. So we have the policy review to integrate the county and public comments, and then we're right before you today to approve the plan. Oops. So we had a self-evaluation conducted regarding access to county programs. This included staff from Sally Swanson and Department of Personnel Services of providing questionnaires and doing outreach to county departments into their programs. Sally Swanson evaluated those, and she included those in the report. The ADA compliance of surveys of built environment, Sally Swanson took a look at all county buildings and facilities, and looking at the public right-of-way, street, sidewalks, and bus stops. In the next couple slides, we'll go into greater detail. So what we did is we had the draft ADA transition plan to address the access issues. When we came here in October, we asked for public input. We opened up the 30-day comment period. We received roughly a dozen or so comments, and those comments were incorporated into the plan, which were identified in the board letter. I believe there was about 7. Also, we had various meetings with the Disability Advisory Commission, also public meetings that staff attended to solicit even greater input from constituency. And also, I attended the Disability Advisory Committee on March 10th, which seems like it was years ago now, to address any concerns that they had. So then we have establish and adopt the ADA transition plan. In this ADA transition plan, the next 2 slides are going to have some numbers that are pretty eye-popping. I mean, in terms of costs, in terms of bringing us compliant to the ADA. And it's kind of important in the context that you take a look at this. This is bringing everything that was built in Sacramento County up to current compliance. So, I mean, we're going years, if not decades back. So I just wanted to preface that. So looking at county buildings and facilities, there were 149 surveyed. There are over about 19,704 access barriers identified. And looking at the highest priority facility improvements, county-owned versus leased, which is a priority. The public path to travel from front door to the front door, is it safe? Public interior spaces, staff path of travel to front door, and then staff interior spaces. And each one of those has a dollar amount associated with it. Then we took a look at the public right-of-way, taking a look at the curbs and ramps. There are 32,071 of those surveyed. Pedestrian signals, 2,423. Bus stops, 1,039. Sidewalk gaps, which means they're going to have an area of street. I grew up in the unincorporated area. I know there's some parts of there's sidewalk, and there's some parts where there's gaps in the sidewalk, and that came up to about 141 miles. And then sidewalks themselves, they took a look at over almost close to 2,000 miles of sidewalk.
Dave, can I interrupt here? Can you expand a little bit on where the responsibility shifts between the county and regional transit when it comes to bus stops?
I'm going to have to ask the Department of Transportation on that question.
Rick Carter with the Department of Transportation. There is currently what is an expired maintenance agreement between the county and regional transit regarding bus stops and ADA improvements. The department and RT are in the process of renegotiating that. What is currently proposed in there is a 50-50 split in terms of costs for doing ADA upgrades to those facilities.
Can you give me an example, though, of physically, like how do we think about let's say a full sheltered bus stop that is in the unincorporated county? Where's why is it 50-50, for instance? What constitutes that?
Yeah. Physically, there are a couple of different things that come in terms of ADA requirements, one of which is the concrete pad. There's a certain size that's required that is often lacking in the old style of the shelters. So that's something traditionally the county has taken care of, the concrete, so to speak. There are other items in terms of the shelter itself, the benches, items of that nature, the slopes of the concrete, approaching and departing. The curb itself at the shelter has certain ADA requirements that it may or may not match.
Are there any incidental acquisition costs?
There can be, because the pad is supposed to be 8 feet perpendicular to the road. That's one of the big issues, is that there's often not sufficient right of way there to build the required pad depth.
Can I just ask a quick question? So what about the pavement section, though, that underlies where the bus, stops and then departs? I thought there was additional requirements because otherwise, in a number of cases, it breaks down unless you've got sufficient, underpinning, whether it's aggregate base or concrete or asphalt layers. I mean, there's additional costs to that.
There are additional costs associated with that. It's not an ADA requirement. I don't recall off the top of my head what's in the maintenance agreement regarding the pavement sections.
How long has that been expired?
I'm not certain. I can find out.
A while, I think.
It has been a little while, yes.
So there's a previous agreement, though, correct?
Correct.
So in that previous agreement, is it a 50-50 split?
I don't recall. The maintenance agreements itself is with the maintenance division within the department. Mm-hmm. So it's not in my it's not in my auspices.
But we can get you that information.
Yeah.
Supervisor Peters.
Thank you. Rick, I have a question for you. Concerning sidewalks, I know we're doing everything we can on the gaps. We've made great progress on that, but the sidewalks is such a large number. Does that include all the unincorporated county communities that were built without sidewalks?
The gap number is
Not the gap number, the sidewalk.
So the roughly 2,000 miles is actual sidewalk, not including where we lack sidewalk. And in terms of ADA, we're not looking from an ADA standpoint of where there are, say, neighborhoods with no sidewalks, or a lot of the rural roads have no sidewalks. Those numbers aren't here because there's no sidewalk, so there's not an ADA compliance issue related to that.
So what are they then?
I'm not sure I understand the...
Well, so you're not counting the neighborhoods.
Is it like a width issue for existing sidewalks?
So the 2,000 miles of sidewalk that's surveyed, most of it is non-compliant from cross slope. The old
Sorry,
counties...
non-compliant for what?
Cross slope. The cross slope of the sidewalk. It's tilted...
either towards the street or towards the
correct,
property?
Yeah, it's tilted, tends to be toward the street, so water drains. The old county requirement before ADA was a minimum 2%. The ADA standard is a maximum of 2.08%. So most of the sidewalk is greater than that and is non-compliant.
Thank you for explaining that. That's very strange, I think.
Yeah.
So it's sidewalks we already have that are tilted more than the current standard for rain or whatever to drain off of it.
Correct.
And what's the difference? You said it was...
The old standard was a minimum of 2%. The ADA requirement is a maximum of 2.08.
Oh, not even that.
So,
It's a big difference.
I don't
No,
think
it's a
so.
big cost difference.
Minimum versus maximum.
Yes. Yeah, the minimum was 2%.
0.8%, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's if they built the sidewalk exactly 2%, then it would be in compliance, but that really doesn't happen from a
Practical experience.
practical standpoint. And the practicality is most of it is out of compliance from cross slope, and there's also some grade issues and bumps and some other things. But
Good morning, Supervisors. Steve Hartwig, Public Works and Infrastructure. The difference, I know it doesn't sound like a big difference, but the 2% minimum, 2% maximum, when it was at a minimum of 2% cross slope to deal with drainage and to try and prevent water from standing in the wintertime becoming ice, that means that most of them were built at 2.2, 2.3% to make sure that they met the minimum. That's a pretty tight tolerance on a pretty short sidewalk. Now that it's no more than 2.08, we have a lot of them that were at 2.2, 2.3 that no longer meet the ADA standard. So as far as numbers go, those now all have to be counted as out of compliance, even though operationally they're still functional, but they don't meet the current ADA standard. So there was a big shift when it was the minimum of 2 to the kind of the maximum of 2.08. So we have a number of them that were just a little over the 2%, but they don't stay within now the current standard within ADA. So those all show up as part of the.
Okay, it's just such a large number, it's kind of shocking. So if someone is remodeling a home and replaces a sidewalk, then they would be placing it at the current standard, not the one that they currently might have.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a reason why there's no bullet point associated with the 1,950 miles of sidewalk here? The cost of it?
Rick,
Or did you want to surprise us with the next slide?
Go ahead.
the slide here is the highest priorities. Noted in the board letter is the cost to replace the sidewalk, which is estimated at 1.8 billion.
1.8 billion?
Billion with a B for 2,000 miles of sidewalk.
So what's the legal requirement in redoing the ADA? I know that we work on the curb ramps over a longer period of time. Is that sort of the
legal
here?
requirement is a transition plan that identifies and prioritizes the work to be done. And so the transition plan, we're prioritizing the first 4 items here in terms of infrastructure is the top priority. Replacing the existing sidewalk that is non-conformant is at the lowest end of our priorities because of the cost and because the volume and the size of what needs to be done.
I would think, given that we've got almost $500 million in gaps in sidewalk, which I think is much more dangerous.
These were prioritized because this is in our mind is the greater barrier to access than an existing sidewalk that is functional but does not meet current standards.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Frost.
Is this part of what is required in permitting? Like if someone is updating their property and it's on a corner that has a higher curb, and they'll be required, I've run into this a couple of times where it's been cost prohibitive to do their project because of the stoplight they have to build or the curbs and gutters that they have to do. So this isn't necessarily a cost that's all on the county. Am I correct?
When commercial projects are developed or redeveloped, they're required to upgrade their frontage facilities to the current ADA standards. So if they're not in compliance, they do have to reconstruct those.
So this cost covers that doesn't cover the private side. This is just the county facilities.
These are the cost of public rights of way.
Rick, could you get closer to the microphone, please?
These are the costs for the public right-of-way. These certain amount of this work will be done by fronting property owners as part of development or redevelopment. So it's not entirely borne by the county.
Thanks.
Dave, would you like to continue?
So that takes, if there's any other further questions on public right-of-way, this is the last slide, is next steps, which is the approval of the self-evaluation and transition plan. Implementation, we're going to improve internal policies and procedures. The Department of Personnel Services is taking a lead on that. We've already started that process. We're working with departments. We're looking at our own policies, updating them. Then the other component on that is training, having countywide training on self-evaluation and transition plan and ADA. And then going back, the departments are going to incorporate highest priority improvements into the 5-year capital improvement plan and annual budget. And this is kind of a living and breathing document that will always be with the county. So we look to continue to address deficiencies and maintenance projects through the annual budget. Before I close, I'd like to thank the public for their participation in this project, as well with the county departments and especially the Disability Advisory Commission. They've been very instrumental in getting us to where we need to be. And like I said, this is a very important step for the county. It's the first time we've ever had a complete inventory of these items in one spot. So I just, if there's, I'll take further questions, but would appreciate the adoption of the self-evaluation and transition plan.
Thank you, David. Supervisor Frost.
I just want to say that I think this is really important. I wish we could just wave our magic wand and have it be done. We always knew ADA was going to be expensive. Over time, that's been one of the biggest challenges in every jurisdiction that I've been associated with, is how can we get more done quicker. So I think it's wonderful that you made a plan and appreciate your work on it, and I'm going to go ahead and move the item.
Okay. Chair will second. Are there any further questions of staff? We don't have any public comment on this. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Frost. Aye. Kennedy.
Aye.
Natoli.
Aye.
Peters.
Here.
Cerna.
Aye.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
Okay. Item 50 is the Florin, Arco, Ampn, PCN request for a letter of public convenience or necessity to issue a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine liquor license to Ampn at 4421 Florin Road in the South Sacramento community.
Good morning, members of the board. Leanne Moffett, your planning director. I have a PowerPoint I can run through very quickly, probably skip some points here given the hour.
They're getting the PowerPoint set up in the back.
Excellent. So this is an Arco Ampn. It's on the north side of Florin. It's across from Southgate Mall. And the store has been here since 1981, and this owner has owned it since 2003. They have been investing in the Arco, so they have rebuilt the facility. Here's the location. And because they've rebuilt it, that has triggered the need for them to re-get a PCN through the state. The act of reconstructing the building is what triggered this, but they have been operating for many years here. So we do have a community planning advisory. We have all the regular data about the census tract, the numbers within the 1 mile, the environmental justice analysis, the sensitive receptors, and also the CPAC recommendation was 5-0 for approval. This is the 1 mile radius map. And staff is recommending approval given the long history at this site, their prior PCN, no issues, and a recommendation from the sheriff.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Supervisor Kennedy, any comments?
I have no questions or comments. This has been a responsible owner, and I will move staff recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved by Supervisor Kennedy, seconded by Supervisor Frost. Roll call vote, please.
Frost. Aye. Kennedy.
Aye.
Natoli.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Unanimous vote.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Item 51, adopt amendment to the 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan, adopt amendment to the 2020 One-Year Action Plan, amend the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency budget, adopt amendment to the Citizen Participation Plan related to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act.
Good morning. Celia Iniguez with the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. I'm the program manager in the Federal Programs Division. As you are all aware, on March 27th, 2020, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, or CARES Act, thank you, was approved to respond to the growing effects of the historic COVID-19 public health crisis. As part of that package, the county received some specific funds, a little over $3.4 million in Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, more than $1.7 in Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG funding. The CARES Act also allowed the HUD Secretary to grant waivers and alternative requirements related to the use of these funds, CDBG and ESG. I point this out because there are several very important and relevant components proposed that impacts these funds that we are allocating. The first is reducing the public comment period for amending the consolidated plan and the action plans from the required 30 days to 5 days, as well as the option of allowing virtual public hearings for these amendments. Additionally, there is the suspension of the 15% cap on public services funding for CDBG, and for ESG, they are exempting the $1-for-$1 match requirements as well. It's important to note that all of these activities must still meet the eligibility and national objective requirements of the two funding sources. SHRA did apply for the waivers on April 7th for CDBG and ESG fundings. Back on the COVID-19 homeless response team was established. This was part of a county and city and broader public health response to COVID-19. On April 7th, he received a very in-depth presentation about the recommendations from that team, and that team included a plan of action and a funding plan as well. Because it was so in-depth, I'm going to provide just a very high-level overview of the three components that are relevant this morning. That action that you took approving that plan provided the direction that was required for SHRA staff then to proceed to do these action plan, consolidated plan amendments that are required of HUD, from HUD. So the three main pieces of the funding approach was to support existing shelters with additional funding for supplies and services. This will be funded through these two sources today. Then the second component is preparing for isolation, or establishing isolation and quarantine shelters. This includes the expansion of existing shelters, the establishment or an operation of trailers received from the state, and then the operation of shelters from motels. The bulk of the funding today will be utilized for this second component. The third is source funding for encampments, which includes outreach, supplies, transportation, meals, and sanitation. There are no funds proposed this morning for the encampments. So staff is requesting the amendment to the consolidated plan because we need to add these new resources to the plan. We also need to add a goal which addresses disasters such as this case and others in the future. We are requesting amendment to our one-year action plan, again to add these resources, to allocate them to the specific programs. That is included in Exhibit 2. And then the third piece is an amendment to the Citizen Participation Plan, again allowing us to include a component for us to take advantage of the waivers currently and in the future if this were to happen. So that concludes my presentation. This is a public hearing, and I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Tully.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Sally. This question may be for you or for Bruce. It was 2 weeks ago that we had the homeless response plan for the COVID response team was presented to this board. Do we have a count as of yet, a numerical count of folks that have been housed? And, again, just a brief, this funding goes in line, obviously, Sally, you're here on the consolidated plan, but I'm just curious is that, it's still early, but, we've had 2 weeks of
Yeah, it is early, Supervisor. As of last Friday, they'll just be ramping up. I expect more data tomorrow on the actual placement at this point in time. But we had at that time put 32 households into motels. The trailers had just been approved as of last Friday. There was questions from the state fire marshal that had to be rectified, so that was. So they had just started putting people into trailers as of last Friday. There has been extensive work to distribute the sanitation equipment that in the encampments. As of last Friday, they had placed 40 washing stations and 40 toilets in 27 locations. They were delivering 400 meals daily at that point in time. We had outreach workers out in the field, close to 40 outreach workers, reaching out to the encampments, trying to make the connections to the hotels, and getting that referral process underway. So I expect another update. There'll be a formal update later this week, but I expect a quick summary tomorrow as to more data on that.
Yeah, one more point that I have is that I think a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, there was a site created, Donate for Sacramento, for meals, personal hygiene kits. So $68,000 has been raised through that site, and that's been granted to 16 volunteer organizations.
Right.
So that's been a very positive move there too.
That's good information, good news, I guess. So we've deployed a whole lot of folks. It sounds like we got more folks deployed than we've thus far got acceptance for housing folks. You said 32 families. There may be a larger number of folks included in that number if they're families. What are you finding out in the field? If you've had 40 folks out, what are we finding out there? Are people responsive? Are they interested in the housing, or they just want to stay in their encampment and get meals delivered to them?
It's a mix, but for the most part, yes, there's interest in it. As I mentioned in my presentation here, when you have somebody who resists or doesn't want the referral, we make a really strong effort to educate the person on the risk of the virus and the importance of moving forward. I have not gotten information that there's a lot of resistance to this. The real thrust of it is to ramp the plan up, make these placements, and protect ourselves from the virus.
I think the other point, Bruce, in there that we've not been in the same office space, so we're a little bit disjointed here, is that part of the issue we also ran into is that there's 23 folks that are ineligible. Remember, there's pretty stringent criteria.
There's what now?
23 individuals that did not qualify because you got to have COVID symptoms. So when we were out,
I thought if you were just at risk and you were homeless, you didn't have to have symptoms.
We had
a priority. We had a priority list.
List, and 23 people did not meet that priority list. So this is a very tedious work as we're going through, because there's criteria that they had established. We talked 2 weeks ago. So there's 23 folks that did not meet the criteria. So that's the kind of work we're doing, encampment by encampment, to find out folks and get them into the resources. The trailer issue, I did talk to Cal Expo CEO, and as Bruce mentioned, there was an issue with Cal Fire. They're the permitting agency for it. They finally got everything done, so that was a slow ramp up. So the assets were sitting there, but now with all the hookups, everything signed off, they have certificate of occupancy, so we'll see a ramp up coming on that site with City of Sacramento.
So did we do the contract with the hotel and motel that was identified? You identified some potentials, but we actually had one that was a part of the blessing we gave.
That's right. We had one. Remember, as I explained the plan when I was here a couple weeks ago, we're doing this graduated approach. We're in the process of filling up that one, but we've got over 1,100 rooms poised and be ready to use as we need them. And we've got interested owners who have been working with us. So we're prepared to move forward on that very quickly.
So just one other thing, and again, not to get too deeply into this, and again, that's not exactly the whole item that's before us, but if on the priority list, you kind of went down the list, as those that were, is either symptomatic or had been exposed, age risk, and exposure obviously to the elements. But at the end of it was anybody else who was was homeless. I think it was like went through 1 through 7 or whatever it was. I have it in front of me, but. To the point you made, Nav, so 23 that weren't eligible in the highest risk categories.
So item number 7 on that list, I'm looking at it, was 54 years and under with pre-existing conditions, no symptoms.
Okay.
That's the high. That's the lowest.
That's the lowest priority.
So you still are targeting people who are either exposed to the virus, have pre-existing conditions, or would be subject to real risk because of the virus, and also real risk of spreading the virus.
Okay. And just one other question then, for the 23, I assume that they would have been eligible for potentially other shelter services, though?
Yeah, we're working with those 23 it varies depending on the person's situation, but we're doing work with those each.
Again,
I put that number not to say that we're not doing anything with them. There's 2 paths, right? 2 doors. If you have the COVID thing, you go door A, you go door B. I was specifically responding to the question saying, why are the ramp up that we're having? Those are the kind of things we're finding out in the field, is that there's both doors and we're getting them where they need to go.
Okay, so you knew how many we have been able to place. You said 32 families. How many individuals in your list? You must have, since you're reading off a different list than Bruce or something.
No, I'm not. I'm reading the same list. We're in the same list.
So what's your question, Supervisor?
But my question is, okay, 32 families, but you didn't say about individuals. And Nav was saying individuals that weren't eligible. So how many individuals have you placed?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, we don't have the individual count. It's a household count that we're getting.
So a household could be 1, it could be 5.
1 could be 2, could be 3.
Okay.
But remember, we're talking about hotel rooms. That's what we're targeting.
Just trying to get some sense of it. Okay, thanks. Thank you. I guess nothing for you, Sally. You're off the hook.
Any other questions for staff?
Move approval.
Okay. Moved by Supervisor Peters, second by Supervisor Frost. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Frost?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Natoli?
Aye.
Peters?
Aye.
Cerna?
Aye.
Unanimous vote.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Next item is your nominations.
Yeah, before we do that, though, I am in receipt, and this is my fault. I am in receipt of a commenter for item 15 that somehow didn't get read. So that individual has asked that I read their comment into the record. So I committed to do that. So I'll do that now. It shouldn't take more than a couple minutes. Dear Supervisor Cerna, you have my permission. I'm sorry, this is from Matthew Bridges. Dear Supervisor Cerna, you have my permission to read my public comment during the Board of Supervisors meeting on April 21st, 2020. This comment is regarding item number 15. Hello, Board, and thank you for reading and considering our comments. My name is Matthew Bridges, and I am a Sacramento County resident in District 1. I ask that you take item 15 off the consent calendar and have a full discussion of the item. Furthermore, I ask that you do not move forward on this item altogether. Sacramento County does not need a new jail. The Mays consent decree does not require you to build a new jail, but strongly recommends you reduce the jail population. In this COVID-19 crisis, you must divert the $7 million you are planning to spend on a jail architect and reinvest that money into our communities now. We need non-law enforcement, non-probation, community-based services, and housing to support people who are in crisis so they don't end up in the criminal legal system to begin with. Incarceration disproportionately burdens communities of color, unhoused, and mentally ill people, oftentimes being held with no conviction at all. We have seen how negligent the sheriff is, breaking arms of people during jail intake and petty retaliation against tenants with harsh punishment like solitary confinement. We have seen consistent medical negligence. Tenants having a heart attack or a miscarriage and screaming in their cells for hours through the night asking for help. Pushing the emergency button over and over again. The Sacramento County jails is a brutal and traumatic place. And building a new tower will not suddenly change how the sheriff and jail medical system work. Last year, you all made a courageous decision not to move forward as planned on the proposed $89 million construction contract to expand the RCCC in Elk Grove. You saw how fiscally irresponsible such a project would be, committing the county to over $600 million in operating costs over the next 30 years. It's clear that many residents in our county are in need of necessities such as housing, healthy food, youth programming, mental health services, drug and alcohol programs, parks, and parent support programs. Please vote no on a new jail in Sacramento County and reinvest and care, not cages. And that, again, is from Matthew Bridges for item 15. Okay, now we can move on to our nominations.
Item number 52, you are continuing to June 2nd, the Assessment Appeals Board, County Service Area 4B, Slough House Wilton Consumnes, County Service Area 4C, Delta, Developmental Disabilities Planning and Advisory Council, Southeast Area Community Planning Advisory Council. And for today, Children's Coalition.
The Chiefs are recommending reappointing Bradley Miller, nominating Joshua Green, to the interest area seat and continuing the remainder until June 2nd.
Cordova Community Planning Advisory Council.
Supervisor Tolley?
We're still waiting for some additional applications, and so and we haven't done the interview with the other parties, so we continue this for 4 weeks, please.
May 19th.
Yes.
Disability Advisory Commission.
Chiefs recommend reappointing William Fillet and Reggie Nelson and continuing the remainder to June 2nd.
Okay. Elk Grove Consumnes Cemetery District.
We need to do interviews behind this, so continue for 4 weeks, please.
Continue to May 19th. Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee.
Chiefs are recommending nominating Robert Riesig and continuing the remainder to June 2nd.
Fair Oaks Community Planning Advisory Council.
Supervisor Peters.
Continue, please, to June 2nd.
Thank you. Human Services Coordinating Council.
Chiefs recommend continuing the item until June 2nd.
Thank you. Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health Advisory Board.
Chiefs are recommending nomination of Paula Rudd Coleman and waive the process, and then please continue the remainder to June 2nd.
Second.
You need a roll call vote.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Supervisor Frost.
Aye.
Supervisor Kennedy.
Aye.
Supervisor Natoli.
Aye.
Supervisor Peters.
Aye.
Supervisor Cerna.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. And continue the remainder to June 2nd.
Correct.
Recreation and Park Commission.
For me,
Yes.
I would recommend Greg McClelland.
Okay. And continue to May 5th for appointment.
I can't hear you.
And continue to May 5th for appointment.
Continue to May 5th for the appointment. Was the question.
Oh, okay.
I was asking.
Never had to say that
questions.
before, so
Sorry.
okay.
I was just asking the question.
Okay, yes.
Okay. And Sacramento County Alcohol and Drug Advisory Board.
Chiefs recommend nominating Charity Corney Barnhart and also recommend nominating Eric Handler and Jill Foyt.
Okay. And that concludes your nominations.
Okay.
Item number 53 is county executive comments.
No comments.
Okay. Any comments, reports, ideas from board members? Any comments or ideas, Supervisor Kennedy?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for your indulgence, but I specifically want to thank our clerk, Ms. Evans, jumped to it to make it possible for me to do this, and she did it late in the day yesterday, so I appreciate the effort.
Thanks. I'm glad you could join us.
Hope you feel better.
Okay. We do have closed session?
One item, yes.
One item, closed session. Okay. If there's no further business before the board, we are adjourned. Upstairs?
Yeah, on the 7th floor.
Got it. Thanks.